Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole crew styling when we step out of the car. Bouncers lift the rope and the crowd goes off. 20 shots to the table, we don't even hit the bar.
It's another week. Welcome back right here to this collaboration between the Florida International University Ratcliffe Art and Design Incubator and Inspicio Arts. And I want to welcome in on this fall day, Ray Ellman. Welcome back.
And it's such a pleasure to join you again, Maggie, especially with your new fall colors that you're wearing today. And it makes me almost think I'm back in New England, but I don't think I want to be there anymore.
Thank you, Ray. That's kind of the feel. I have like this fall kind of a theme going on behind me, my plaid look. Thank you so much for that compliment. So let's kick it off. So this week we're talking about artist Donna Ruff, kind of a Miami native in this kind of conversation. She attended Miami Beach High School and she graduated from the University of Miami. She's got a background in education and art. And her early beginnings are really as an art teacher in local schools. I guess she was inspired more than anything by illustration. And let's talk a little bit about her beginnings and then talk about the tech component that all this has in her journey. Because once the technology part of it steps in, people like her are kind of challenged, right? So let's kick it off. Talk a little bit about her beginnings and her being a Miami native.
Well, I just want to say one thing. I don't think she was challenged by the changes in technology. I think she embraced them, but she followed a different path once she decided to do that. But to begin with, she grew up in Miami. She went to Miami Beach High. She was certainly aware of some of the other luminaries that, or people who became luminaries that passed through Miami Beach High. And eventually she went to New York and became a really high-end illustrator and designer. She had an arrangement with Lord and Taylor where her drawings were a part of their advertising campaign, and she worked on many other accounts. And she did extremely well, both artistically and financially. I think that she developed in art school, she developed all the traditional skills that artists used to know. So she's a terrific draftsman, or, she draws really well. And she also has a great sense for abstract art. But then what happened was that as the world of advertising started seeking more and more designers and illustrators who were using technology in their work, including video, she decided that that was not the direction that she wanted to be working in. And it wasn't that she was incapable of it. She just decided that she didn't want to do that. So she got a master's in fine arts from Rutgers University and learned even more skills and techniques. She moved to the Southwest and spent quite a while out there, but it turned out that caused her to develop a health problem for something that was in the dust and the soil. Even though, people sometimes go there for their health, it actually affected her and I think infected her lungs. And she eventually moved back to Miami. And the kind of work that she's been creating in her fine arts life has been to take different materials and manipulate them in a way, quite often eliminating things. So she might take newspaper pages and that might have illustrations in them, have text in them, but use computer technology to create vector images that enable her to take machines and die cut pieces out of the newspaper or out of the fabric or whatever she's working with to create images sometimes that you can look through and see things on the other side. One of the things we've illustrated in our interview with her is she became more politically focused over the last 5 years and did images on cloth where there'd be, for example, images of immigrants at the southern border on one side of a piece of manipulated fabric, and on the backside was an American flag. So that's kind of examples. When you go to our interview, you'll see other examples of her work, which is quite beautiful.
So as an artist, artists use a lot of different things, right, to make their art. They can use plastic, they can use, paint watercolors. She talks about using scotch tape briefly. What was that about?
Actually, I asked her, she mentioned that when I asked her who her influences are, one of the artists, which in this case are brothers, that are known as the Starm Twins, and they actually make beautiful work. And I was familiar with their work because they used to exhibit in Provincetown where I lived. And I knew that they would put pieces together and put scotch tape on them. And I asked her if she had ever done that. And she said, yes. In fact, she had done that where she used scotch tape. And just, on the one hand, you think if somebody puts scotch tape on their piece of artwork, they left it behind by mistake, but actually it's part of the way they're envisioning the work.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody remembers that banana. I think it was Art Basel, right? That piece. So I think, artists always have that quirk, if you want to call it, or that uniqueness to them of using some type of material or some type of object, or they're known for something. So what can we take away?
Maggie, it's interesting you bring up the banana that was gaff taped to a wall, and basically, I mean, you wouldn't call it a piece of art in the conventional sense where there's something beautiful you want to look at, but it's a piece of art in the sense of, and maybe he was the first person to do something like this, Marcel Duchamp put a urinal on the wall. And
I remember that.
Back in the beginning of the 20th century, and he was forever known. I mean, he was a terrific artist, and he made some extraordinary pieces, but he was also a conceptual artist, and that's what that banana taped to the wall is, a conceptual piece. You may not want to own the artwork, but you might never forget the name of the artist.
So what can we take away from artist Donna Ruff? What do you think the takeaway here is? What does she want to be remembered as?
Well, I think that there's she has a high energy, and she has no boundaries in terms of willingness to experiment with materials and techniques. I mean, one of the things that she talks about in the piece is that during the pandemic, because she still had that lingering effects from the disease she got in the Southwest, she was reluctant to go to her studio, which was a shared space with other artists, and she didn't quite know what to work on. So she was home a lot, and like many people, she started organizing her living space and getting rid of things. And she found a whole bunch of T-shirts that had dated slogans on them for different events and political events. And she decided to make something out of those. So she did a lot of ripping and tearing and assembling, and covered them in plaster, and kind of pieced them together in a way that made it objects that you could see through, that looked kind of lacy, that had different elements to them. And somebody said to her, "Oh, that reminds me of ghost bicycles." And the concept of ghost bicycles is that when somebody died in a bicycle accident, people would take their bicycle and paint it white, and then other people would affix flowers to it and things like that. And she thought, oh, let me do that with these pieces I'm making out of t-shirts. And so she started fixing different kinds of objects to it that were colorful. So what that says to me is that she's somebody who embraces serendipity, that if there's something that she's doing and an accident happens, she won't just say, oh, I got to start over again, I screwed that up. She'll say, oh, is that better than what I was thinking about? And should I embrace that or reject it? And she's constantly looking for new ways to express herself. And I think I think her work is beautiful. So I think whenever there's an opportunity to see it, people should.
Okay, Ray, thank you so much for this discussion on artist Donna Ruff. You guys can catch it on Inspicio Arts. Thank you, Ray.
Great to see you again, Maggie. And I can't wait till we have another one of these sessions.